We're going to turn scrap wood into something beautiful like these coasters. Stay tuned. Hey, welcome back to the shop, everybody. Today we're going to do a fun project. We're going to take scrap wood like this and turn it into something that's functional, it's beautiful, make for a great gift item if you're an Etsy seller or you go to fairs. Would be an inexpensive project, so check this out. If you're like me, you've got a lot of pieces like this where they're not terribly functional pieces of wood. You can get a little bit of strip out of it maybe, but what do you do to maximize your wood? I hate to throw stuff away, and that makes for expensive firewood. So I came up with an idea for some coasters. A few of you out there have gotten some of my prototypes on this, guys like Tom and a couple of others. So we're going to go ahead. Well, I'm going to show you what I made. This is a coaster template. I've got a link for this and the coaster base. That'll be in the show notes, so that'll be there for you. I wanted to create a coaster that wasn't round. You know, that round's kind of boring. So this has a kind of a cool shape. And when you lay it out on some of this scrap wood, like this, I can get a fair amount of wood that's still usable and minimize my scrap, minimize my waste, and that's a winner. Now, obviously, this is a very simple project, and you can get kind of fancy with it if you want. You can do some, you could do a glue up and have like a maple strip coming down the center of that. Uh, I showed you in a recent video my fancy cutting board where you do an inlay and you just have a couple of hardwood inlays, and it's super easy to do. You could do that in this project, but I wanted to do something simple today for myself. There's not a lot of money in coasters. You know, I'm an Etsy seller, and that's what I do primarily to make an income in my wood shop. So I want to make sure that I'm not spending too much time making something that I can't sell for a fair price to me. Now, if I were going to give this as a gift, I might fancy it up a little bit. It's up to you. So let's get into it right now. So for this project, I'm going to be using my bandsaw to cut the rough shape out. Then I'm going to use a flush trim bit after I adhere this with double-sided tape, and I'll use this as a pattern. Now, if you don't have a bandsaw, don't sweat it. Use your jigsaw. And if you don't have a flush trim bit, well, just do the best you can, okay? Sand it down, make it nice and pretty. So what I'm going to do, and this is what you'll do if you get the template, is go ahead and use it as your guide. I use a magic marker, and the reason being is it gives me a nice fat line. And I'm going to cut on the bandsaw to the outside of that fat line. And that way I know that I have enough material so I don't screw up, and I don't have too much material so that my flush trim bit gets bogged down. Now this piece, it looks like I could get two out of it, but I can't. All right, and get this done. So we're going to go over to the bandsaw next, and in time lapse, I'm just going to blast these out. Don't want to bore you. And if you notice, I'm not using that little interior cutout. I have a plan for a different idea. So on the template, you've got it, but you'll see what I'm doing too. All right, let's get to the bandsaw. The bandsaw work was a piece of cake, and now it's time to apply these templates. First off, I've used spec tape. In fact, I think they changed the formula or something. It feels different, behaves a little bit different. I tried this Trazone, and it's a really popular brand, and I struggle with it. And maybe it's my fat fingers or arthritis. I don't know, but it kind of makes me crazy. So if anybody wants a roll, okay, so all you do is you cut like 3 pieces. You just get it on like so. That way it doesn't go anywhere. And this is where this Spec tape has changed a little bit more challenging to get off the sticky side. Well, I'm winning today. We'll take that. And then you've got a clear plastic side, and this has a paper on it. You can remove the paper on both sides, whatever rocks your world. But I would go ahead and just adhere this to the plastic side, the acrylic side, I should say, to be more correct. Okay. Now that I've got this spaced out nicely, give it a good squeeze and ready to go. So we're going to go ahead and get these over to the router table right now, use a flush trim bit, and we'll get these all perfectly cut. I should let you know, the template kit comes with 2 of the templates plus the base. And the deal is that the tape typically can be reused the second time around. So you're being more time efficient. So that's a real bonus. Something I wanted to mention, I get a lot of phone calls or messages throughout the day, and I can be in the middle of setting up my router table, for instance, and I've gotten into the habit of always checking to see where my wrenches are. I came close one day to having a disaster. I hadn't tightened everything down. In fact, my wrench was inside the router. I don't know what would have happened, but that would have been a real bonehead move. So I always check for my wrenches. Okay, let's get this done. I do love working with a flush trim bit. It does such a nice job. And I don't know if you saw, I was paying attention to where my grain was. You always start parallel with the grain, never up on top where you're going against the grain. You could get kickback on that. That'll get your attention really quick. We've all done it. Okay, options. We can leave the coaster just like this, which is about 3/4 of an inch thick, okay? We could fancy it up, and we could have done a laminate or a glue up with, say, just a fine maple strip, and I think that would look really sharp. We could do inlays, so I just double-sided tape these, and the Purple Heart and the walnut would look nice. I think the maple would even look a little bit better, more contrast. And then last but not least, we could take one of these and resaw it to make 2. Now, the advantage is that this is a nice thin coaster. We don't really need thick coasters, but not everybody can resaw. So I get it. Go for the thick, go for the thin, but there's options. So my big bandsaw is still not working. So I'm going to use my little Rikon back there, and I've got a 1/2 inch blade in there, and it will resaw. It's not ideal, but I'm going to go ahead and resaw these off camera, and then we'll pick up with the project from there. The resawing was a breeze, and then I ran everything through the drum sander, and the beauty of that is that everything is perfectly flat, and it's the same thickness all the way throughout. Okay, we need to talk about the base now. Off camera, I went ahead and I cut my maple base. It still has the template on it. As you can see, there's a registration mark right there. And that's going to be the center for a 3/4 inch dowel that's going to fit down about 1/4 inch deep into this and then glued in. And it's going to stick up just a hair above my coasters, like so. And the coaster itself, it's going to have a 7/8 inch hole drilled right through it, and that way it'll index right over the dowel, and it'll be a nice fit but not overly snug. It's going to work out great. So I'm going to go ahead and mark my registration point, and then I'm going to take this over to my drill press, get a Forstner bit in there for a 3/4 inch, and I'll drill this down to a 1/4 inch. All right, so I've got my 3/4 inch hole here, so I'm ready to go on that. Now it's time to get these templates, or excuse me, these coasters indexed and drilled. So what I've done is I've just looked here and equally spaced the top and the bottom, and I'm going to go ahead and make a master mark here. Okay, and so now what I'm going to do Hope you can see that. Now what I'm going to do is go over to the drill press and I'm going to run just like an 1/8 inch hole through all of these, and then I'll index that with my Forstner bit and cut my 7/8 inch hole. Well, this is one of my crazy ideas that I use for my 3D wall art with my laser. And when you have multiple layers, you need to index those layers properly so it doesn't look goofy. So I've resorted to this, which is just standard shelving material from a big box store. I drill an 1/8 inch hole, and then I have 1/8 inch rods, and I just pound those into the wood. And it allows me to index my wall art perfectly, and it's going to allow me to index this just nicely too. So now I'm just going to tap these 7/8 inch holes and we'll be good to go. The holes are all cut. That worked out perfectly. Now what I want to do is take this back to the router table, and I want to take that edge off. And I'm going to do that since we don't have a lot of thickness there. I want to just take an 1/8 inch radius bit to it and just knock that edge down, and it's going to be perfect. Let me show you what we did. It's got a nice little round over, very sleek, kind of sexy. I'm digging it. Okay, so now with these coasters, it's time to sand. And I need to go from 120 to 180 and then up to 220, water pop it, and then I'm going to come back when it's dry, knock down all that fuzz with the 220, and we'll be ready to finish for this. Now the base is going to be sanded as well, and I won't need to water pop that, but I have this dowel that's going to index into here like so. And I want that dowel to be about 3/4 of an inch taller than the highest coaster. So, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a little chamfer on this so it'll have a nice index to it. I don't want it clunky like a straight edge like this. It's just a nice little transition there. And then we're going to go to the finishing table, and I'm going to show you what I'm going to use for this because it is going to get moisture. If you live in a more humid climate, you're going to see more moisture when you have like a glass with ice melting, condensating on it. So we're getting pretty close. Time to sand. This has been water popped and sanded at 220. It looks fantastic. And of course, the colors are kind of drab right now because we haven't finished it yet, but that's exactly what we're going to do next. I'm going to be using the Osmo Polyx oil, and I prefer the clear satin. Your mileage may vary, but that's my choice. This is a good finish. It's not a food safe finish to my understanding, and so I'm not going to be using food on this, obviously. But if you were going to use this as like a little tasty bite platter or something like that, then go ahead and use my board butter and the sawdust and splinter carnauba wax. That would be the way to go. Well, let me show you what the Osmo looks like. It's kind of like the color of, oatmeal maybe, I don't know. It's off-white, and it really doesn't tint your wood at all. So here's how you apply this stuff. They say to go ahead and put a thin coat on it, on your wood, and then they want you to wipe any excess off immediately. You're going to go ahead and then let it dry for 8 to 10 hours at room temperature. And then you're going to apply a second coat, and that second coat will sit for another 8 to 10 hours. And again, you wipe off any excess. And then you can go ahead and buff it with a white cloth. I don't buff my poly, but hey, it's up to you. Do whatever you want. But it does give a nice finish, and it's great for furniture, great for hardwood floors, not for cutting boards. Isn't that nice? Very pretty. So I'm going to do the rest of these and the base off camera, and then we'll wrap this project up. I've got a little surprise for you at the end. It's a wrap. You know, that was a fun project. It's a great way to use some scrap wood. People are going to like that as gifts. We talked about the variety of things that you can do. You can add some little felt feet on the bottom if that rocks your world, you know, whatever. But the Osmocote worked out really well, and I will leave you a link in the show notes for that. And as far as the base is concerned, my wife came out and said, "Oh, is that what you're going to use?" And I said, "Yeah, maple and walnut are kind of a classic contrast." And she says, "Well, I'm not a fan." So, okay, well, make it out of make everything out of walnut, or make everything out of cherry or maple, whatever rocks your world. You have infinite possibilities. So, the templates are in the show notes as well if you're interested. And I mentioned something, a little value add. I made these templates last year for Christmas, and I gave them out. Actually, I gave the ornaments out to my Etsy customers during, from Black Friday to Christmas. But I'll gift you guys a couple of these star templates. So you can make your own stars, give them away, sell them, whatever works, that's fine. But I want to thank you all for following along. I appreciate you hanging out. Do hit subscribe, hit the bell so you get all my notifications. I've got a lot more coming up. I'm going to surprise you with a different project next week. So stay tuned for that. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. Have a great day.